The Awakening Protocol. The emergency lights bathed the Galactic Assembly Chamber in crimson, a color that hadn't illuminated these ancient walls in over 3 millennia. Representatives from 47 star systems sat frozen in their respective atmospheric pods, their various appendages, tentacles, and sensory organs all focused on the central hologram that flickered with data streams too disturbing to comprehend. Ambassador Thexel of the Vorthian Collective spoke first, her crystalline form resonating with barely contained fear. The translation matrix converted her harmonic vibrations into a universal tongue that every species could understand. The reports cannot be accurate. No single species has ever achieved Category Red designation without first being extinct. The Galactic Assembly had created the threat classification system eons ago. Green meant peaceful, willing to integrate. Yellow indicated caution needed, potential for isolated conflicts. Orange suggested active monitoring, possible containment protocols. Red meant one thing only: existential threat to galactic civilization. And Category Red had never been used on a living species before. Director Kaltos, an ancient being whose species had founded the Assembly, extended his primary manipulator toward the hologram. 3 cycles ago, we detected an anomaly in the Void Sector. A human colony ship, designation Perseverance, thought lost over 200 standard years ago during Earth's first expansion attempt. Earth. The name sent ripples through the chamber. Most species remembered humanity as a curiosity, a young race that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel before mysteriously retreating to their home system. They were considered a failed civilization, too violent for their own good, too stubborn to accept galactic guidance. The Assembly had written them off as another evolutionary dead end. The Korthax Empire made first contact. Kaltos continued, his voice heavy with something that might have been regret. The Korthax were known for their aggressive expansion policies, their belief in might-makes-right diplomacy. They controlled 17 systems through fear and superior firepower. They sent 3 dreadnoughts to claim the colony ship as salvage. The hologram shifted, showing tactical footage from the lead Korthax vessel. The human ship appeared derelict, hull scarred by centuries of cosmic radiation, engines dark. It drifted like a corpse through space. The Korthax boarding parties breached the hull with practiced efficiency, expecting to find either nothing or frozen remains. What they found changed everything. Captain Sarah Chen had been in cryo-sleep for 203 years. Her pod had malfunctioned decades ago, keeping her in a state between life and death, conscious but unable to move, unable to die. She had felt every second pass, every micro-impact on the hull, every system failure. Her mind had done something impossible to survive. It had evolved. The footage showed the Korthax warriors entering the cryo chamber. They were 2 meters tall, covered in natural armor plating bred for war. They found Chen's pod, saw the life signs, and made their second mistake. They opened it. Chen didn't move at first. Her body was atrophied, skin pale as starlight, eyes sunken. The Korthax commander laughed, a sound like grinding metal, and reached for her throat. He never saw her move. One moment she was prone, the next she was standing, the commander's armor plate torn from his chest and embedded in the bulkhead. She hadn't used weapons. She hadn't used technology. She had simply decided he needed to die, and reality had agreed. The remaining footage was corrupted, showing only fragments. Chen walking through the ship, Korthax warriors firing weapons that seemed to bend around her, their shields failing not from damage but from something else, something that made their technology simply stop working. Within 17 minutes, 300 Korthax warriors were dead, and Chen was broadcasting on all frequencies. My name is Captain Sarah Chen of the colony ship Perseverance. I speak for humanity. We tried peace. We tried isolation. You found us anyway. You tried to take what was ours. This was your first mistake. It will not be your last. The Korthax Empire responded as they always did, with overwhelming force. They sent their entire Third Fleet, 37 capital ships, to destroy the human vessel. They arrived to find Chen had awakened the other colonists, 150 humans who had been sleeping, dreaming, changing for 2 centuries. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The Korthax fleet was gone, not destroyed but disappeared as if space itself had swallowed them. Director Kaltos changed the display again. This is Station Omega-7, a research facility operated jointly by 6 species. It was studying the remains of the Korthax fleet when this happened. The footage showed a normal day at the station, scientists examining wreckage trying to understand what had happened. Then a single human appeared in the main laboratory. Not through the door, not through transportation, just suddenly there. Marcus Stone, according to the identification broadcast he sent. He was looking for something, moving through the station as if the walls were suggestions rather than barriers. Security tried to stop him. Energy weapons discharged, creating light shows that should have vaporized any organic being. Stone walked through them like rain. He found what he was looking for in the secured vault. Genetic samples taken from human prisoners over the centuries. Experiments the assembly had sanctioned in secret. He gathered them all, then turned to the security cameras. Every sample, every cell, every stolen piece of humanity will be returned. You thought we were weak because we chose peace. You thought we were gone because we chose isolation. We were not weak. We were being kind. The station's occupants were evacuated safely, but the facility itself was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply removed from existence as if it had never been built. Where it once orbited, only a message remained, burned into space itself in letters that could be seen from neighboring systems. Humanity remembers. The assembly had tried to respond diplomatically. They sent their best negotiators to Earth, only to find the planet transformed. Where once blue oceans and green continents had spun, now there was something else. Earth was still there, but wrapped in something that bent light and space, making it impossible to approach without invitation. The few probes that managed to send back data showed cities that floated in dimensions that shouldn't exist. Humans who moved through walls of reality as easily as walking through doorways. Ambassador Thexal's form flickered with disbelief. How is this possible? Humans were Type 1 civilization barely 3 centuries ago. This describes capabilities beyond Type 4. Kaltos brought up biological scans. Data stolen at great cost from human encounters. They didn't develop technology. They developed themselves. Every human cell shows quantum entanglement at the genetic level. They've become something that exists partially outside our dimensional framework. They're not using tools to bend reality. They are the tools. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Vorthians, the Korthax, the Selenites, even the ancient Primarchs. All their power came from technology, from machines and energy weapons and shields. Humanity had taken a different path. They had made themselves into something that made technology irrelevant. There's more, Kaltos said quietly. We've detected human signatures in 43 systems previously thought uninhabited. They've been there for decades, possibly longer. Watching, learning, waiting. A new figure appeared in the hologram. Sarah Chen, but different now. Her eyes held stars, literal stars burning in the depths. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere and nowhere. To the Galactic Assembly. Humanity requests formal recognition as a sovereign collective. We will trade. We will share knowledge. We will participate in peaceful exchange. But understand this. We are no longer asking permission to exist. We are informing you that we do. Any attempt to harm human citizens, any violation of our space, any aggression toward our allies will be met with consequences you cannot imagine. We have been patient. We have been restrained. That patience is not infinite. The transmission ended with coordinates, a location in neutral space where humanity would accept diplomatic contact. But the message was clear. Humanity wasn't rejoining the galactic community as subjects. They were announcing themselves as its potential masters, held back only by their own choice to remain peaceful. The reckoning dawned 3 months had passed since the Category Red designation, and the galaxy had changed. Trade routes that had existed for millennia were redrawn to avoid human space. Military fleets maintained triple watches, and in the shadowed corners of 1,000 worlds, beings whispered about the humans who could walk through walls and tear apart dreadnoughts with their thoughts. Commander Marcus Stone stood on the observation deck of what had once been a Korthax slave processing station. Now it served as a rescue center, one of 17 that humanity had established in contested space. The Korthax Empire hadn't fallen, it had simply ceased. Every military installation, every enforcement ship, every weapon depot had vanished in a single night. The slaves they had held for generations woke to find their cages open, their captors gone. Stone didn't look like the monster the galaxy feared. He was weathered, scarred, with gray threading through dark hair. His eyes were tired but kind. He watched as another transport full of liberated beings departed for their homeworlds, funded by resources that appeared in their accounts from nowhere. Sir, Lieutenant Maya Patel materialized beside him, literally stepping out of a fold in space. "The Council is requesting your presence at the emergency summit." Stone almost smiled. Requesting or demanding? They were very polite about it. "I think they're learning." The summit was held on Nexus Prime, the closest thing the galaxy had to a neutral ground. Representatives from every major power had gathered, including some who hadn't left their homeworlds in centuries. They were terrified, and they were right to be. Stone arrived without a ship, simply appearing in the designated meeting chamber. The security forces didn't even twitch anymore. They had learned that human beings moved according to different rules now. He took his place at the table, a single human among dozens of alien species, and waited. Chancellor Vrosk of the Hegemony spoke first. The insectoid leader's compound eyes reflected Stone's image 1,000 times. "We need to understand what humanity has become. Our scientists say what you do is impossible." "Your scientists are working with incomplete models," Stone replied calmly. "When you locked us out of galactic society, we had time to think. When you took our people for experiments, we learned about pain. When you ignored our pleas for peaceful coexistence, we realized we needed to become something you couldn't ignore." "But how?" This from the Selenite representative, a being of living crystal whose species had ruled space when humans were still discovering fire. "Evolution doesn't work this quickly." Stone leaned back, and for a moment his form seemed to flicker, showing something else underneath. Something that existed in more dimensions than the room could hold. "Evolution doesn't. But conscious directed transformation does. Every human who went to sleep on those colony ships, every prisoner in your labs, every exile on forgotten worlds. We all made a choice. We chose to become what we needed to be to survive." He gestured, and the air filled with images. Human children on a dozen worlds, playing games that bent physics. Adults walking through star cores to mine exotic matter with their bare hands. Elderly humans teaching alien younglings how to see beyond the 3 dimensions most species were trapped in. "We're not conquerors," Stone continued. "We're not interested in ruling you. But we will not be ruled. We will not be experimented on. We will not be denied our place among the stars." The Primarch delegate, ancient beyond measure, spoke with a voice like grinding continents. "And if we refuse? If we unite against you?" Sarah Chen answered, though she hadn't been there a moment before. Her presence made the room feel smaller and infinite at the same time. "Then you'll lose. Not because we'll destroy you, but because we won't need to. We'll simply exist somewhere else, in dimensions you can't reach, in spaces you can't perceive, and you'll be alone with the knowledge that you chose fear over friendship." The summit erupted in debate, but it was already over. The decision had been made before they arrived. Humanity would be recognized, given full sovereignty, granted all the rights they had been denied. Not because the galaxy wanted to, but because the alternative was unthinkable. But the real change came after the summit. Human teachers began appearing at universities, sharing knowledge about dimensional mathematics and consciousness evolution. Human healers worked in hospitals, curing diseases by convincing reality that the patient had never been sick. Human explorers found lost colonies, rescued stranded ships, did the work that others couldn't or wouldn't do. A year later, the first non-human achieved dimensional transcendence under human guidance. A young Vorthian scientist named Kalara, who had spent months studying with human mentors. She phase-shifted through a wall, laughed with joy, and immediately began teaching others. The transformation wasn't limited to humanity. It was a gift they were willing to share with anyone brave enough to accept it. The Korthax Empire's former territories became the free systems, governed by councils of former slaves who had learned human techniques of consensual reality manipulation. Pirates found their weapons wouldn't work in human-protected space. Tyrants discovered their fortresses could be walked through like morning mist. Commander Stone established the Human Response Fleet, though fleet was a misnomer. It was 13 humans who could appear anywhere in the galaxy within moments, who could disable armadas with a thought, who could rescue prisoners from the heart of stars. They didn't patrol. They didn't need to. They simply existed, and their existence was deterrent enough. The category Red designation remained, but its meaning changed. Red no longer meant danger. It meant recognition, that humanity had transcended the normal classifications, had become something that couldn't be contained by traditional understanding. Some species still feared them, but more began to seek them out, to learn, to grow. Sarah Chen stood on Earth's transformed surface, in a city that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. The sky showed stars from angles that 3-dimensional beings couldn't perceive. She watched as human and alien children played together, phasing through playground equipment that existed in probability rather than fixed matter. Was it worth it? Marcus Stone asked, appearing beside her. Everything we gave up to become this. Chen considered the question. They had given up their purely physical existence, their simple 3-dimensional lives. They had become something that earlier humans might have called gods or monsters. But they had also saved their species, freed countless slaves, and offered the galaxy a path to something greater. We didn't give up our humanity, she said finally. We just expanded what it meant to be human. We kept our compassion, our creativity, our stubborn refusal to accept limitations. We just added the ability to enforce those values. A message reached them through dimensions carried on quantum winds. Another species was requesting guidance, wanting to learn the human path to transcendence. Another former enemy becoming a friend. Another step toward a galaxy where Category Red meant not a threat to be contained, but a promise of what any species could become if they chose growth over fear. The stars had learned to fear humanity, but more importantly, they had learned to respect them. And in that respect, in that recognition of human potential and restraint, lay the seeds of a future where every species could transcend their limitations. Humanity had become Category Red, not through conquest or destruction, but through transformation. They had made themselves into something that couldn't be threatened, couldn't be contained, couldn't be ignored, and in doing so, they had offered the galaxy its greatest gift, the knowledge that evolution wasn't finished with any of them yet. The story would continue, as humans and aliens worked together to explore new dimensions, to push the boundaries of what life could be. But the first chapter was complete. Humanity had announced itself to the cosmos not with weapons or war, but with the simple, terrifying truth that they had chosen to become more than anyone thought possible, and they were willing to teach anyone brave enough to learn.